He's been getting a lot of attention lately. Some good, but if you check on X, good Lord.
Jasmine Crockett seems to be in the news every single week because she is making very derogatory and
Thank you so much. It is so interesting that I just learned today at 44 years old that the Republicans are going to be the ones to save women. The same Republicans that have been, say, for women's reproductive acts, or the same Republicans that have stood for the Equal Rights Act, which would hopefully get women to equal pay, or the same Republicans that just this Congress voted for the SAVE Act, which we know would disenfranchise women from even being able to vote. But let me tell you, they are our saviors, and so I am so happy to be here today, because otherwise I would not have an idea that I had a savior in the Republicans. So let's also talk about the fact that it's only been 100 days, 100 long, terrible.
You actually have to love how she just starts at 100 every single time.
Days for anybody that absolutely believes in reality, because what we know is that they have terminated staff responsible for enforcing federal protections against sex-based discrimination. Sounds like that's pro-women. Or they've cut funding for domestic violence survivor services. Sounds pro-woman to me. Or they've prohibited funding for research affecting women's health. That definitely sounds pro-women to me. Essentially, they closed the Department of Education's Office of Civil Rights. Again, sounds like they are fighting for us. And instead of providing oversight over these actions, congressional Republicans have been working to execute one of the most aggressive anti-women legislative agendas in history. And yet, they're here today trying to convince the American people that discriminating against trans people is somehow the only way to protect women. This hearing has nothing to do with improving government efficiency. It's another attempt by Republicans to distract from their demonic and disastrous policies that are making it more difficult for Americans to make ends meet. So,
Before she continues, all right, so there's a few things going on. So I understand why you might be bombarded that it's very difficult to pay attention to what you actually need to pay attention to. But in particular, the House Republicans are looking at trimming and reforming food stamps for savings to help pay for Trump's tax cuts. Now, also in regards to those exact same tax cuts, because seemingly he has to work with Congress to actually make this pass, you have to throw them a bone every now and then in the form of something like this. Donald Trump calls on Congress to raise taxes on the rich earning $2.5 million in big, beautiful bill.
That is not what you said.
Donald Trump is pushing for higher taxes on the wealthiest earners, proposing a 39.6 tax rate for individuals making over $2.5 million. This proposal challenges traditional Republican views and aims to finance his multi-trillion-dollar tax cut extension. Now, if he does something about offshoring finances, now you can have that discussion. And then, of course, there's other things happening within the news, like what's happening in D.C. Trump names Jeanine Pirro interim U.S. attorney for D.C. And then, of course, they release some kind of trade deal that they have going on with the UK, where supposedly they're going to keep the 10% tariffs, but remove them for steel, aluminum, and then autos. So all that to say, there's more important stuff going on. So when you see the deflection to trans issues,
Ms. Goss-Graves, women. This hearing has nothing to do with improving government efficiency. It's another attempt by Republicans to distract from their demonic and disastrous policies that are making it more difficult for Americans to make ends meet. So, Ms. Goss-Graves, I want to play a game. It's called Trump or Trans. You ready?
Okay.
So I'm going to ask you a question, and I want you to tell me whether or not it is Trump or trans people that are responsible. You understand?
okay, let's go.
Got it.
Okay, very good. The first one, gutted medical research.
Trump.
Trump,
Kidnapping Americans and sending them to foreign countries, a.k.a. deporting them.
Trump.
Driving us into a recession.
Trump.
Increasing the cost of everything.
Trump.
Waging an idiotic tariff war.
Trump.
Harming
yeah.
farmers.
Trump.
Ignoring the Constitution.
Trump.
Proposing to take away Social Security.
Trump.
Cutting health care.
Trump.
Firing government workers who keep our country safe.
Trump.
Encouraging an environment of hate and
Doge really got rid of nuclear weapons employees and then had to reverse it and bring them back, and was scattering to bring them back. You know how dumb that is?
divisiveness.
Trump.
Thank you so much. This committee could be engaged in actual oversight of fraud, waste, abuse, and mismanagement.
True.
So let's talk about waste. Like Trump's plan to spend almost $100 million for his little birthday parade. Or how he spent 25% of his first 100 days golfing, costing taxpayers tens of millions of dollars. In fact, it's a little bit over $30 million at our last estimation. In fact, President Trump is on pace to spend more than $1 billion of taxpayer dollars just on golfing. Yet the Republicans.
And they host events at Mar-a-Lago as well, which also then goes back to him. Okay, that right there, it might be a slight exaggeration to say that it might hit around $1 billion in expenses. But if you total up all the expenses that they could just claim as all, government related, that might happen at Mar-a-Lago, then all right, fine. Right now, within his first 100 days, yes, he has spent 25% of that actually just playing golf. Don't get it twisted, because the argument that's going to come back is, well, Biden golfed, Obama golfed, Bush golfed, all of these guys all golf. But remember this?
Because I'm going to be working for you. I'm not going to have time to go play golf, and believe me.
Yes, that says Trump Pence. So this is back in the day.
I love golf. I think it's one of the greats, but I don't have time. 250 rounds, that's more than a guy who plays on the PGA Tour plays.
Obama ought to get off the golf course and get down there.
Everything's executive order because he doesn't have enough time because he's playing so much golf. He doesn't have enough time to convince Congress to do it.
So I have the greatest stuff. But you know what? And I love golf. But if I were in the White House, I don't think I'd ever see Turnberry again. I just want to stay in the White House and work my ass off.
President Trump for the birdie.
And I like to play golf.
You get the point.
President Trump is on pace to spend more than $1 billion of taxpayer dollars just on golfing. Yet the Republicans have been silent. So they must think spending taxpayer dollars on the president's golfing trips is more important than providing health care to their constituents. And when I talk about constituents, we're going to talk about the ones on this committee. So if we look at Texas 26, 39,000 children look to potentially lose their Medicaid with the cuts that they are about to vote on for reconciliation. 88,000 in Georgia 3, 68,000 in Missouri 7, 79,000 in Tennessee 2, 86,000 in South Carolina 4, 50,000 in Texas 04, 85,000 in Texas 27, and in Georgia 14, 111,000. And if you add that up just on this committee, we have 606,000 kids that are relying on us to do right by them. And instead, we playing these crazy games because we worried about 10 trans folk that are in sports right now in college. I wasn't elected to be engaged in these fights. I was elected to make sure that those kids, the kids that they are about to neglect with these terrible votes that they're about to take, I was elected to protect them and to make sure that they could grow up and have all the opportunities. But let's keep on track. Now, when we look at how much they are spending on, let's look at fraud. We could investigate whether the White House and the members of this subcommittee engaged in insider trading and market manipulation. Maybe it's a coincidence that the chairwoman brought hundreds of thousands
Marjorie
of dollars
Taylor's
worth
right
of stock
there.
the
She
day
has her
before Trump
picture. Good
announced
Lord.
a 90-day pause on tariffs. But I guess we'll never know. So
It could be investigated. I mean, I think this is Marjorie right here in the corner. Goodness gracious.
finally, let's talk about abuse. Like how the Republicans have
Look at
let
this one.
Elon steal data of Americans and his competitors to make himself even richer. Look, don't let these hearings distract you from their destruction. This is rage baiting instead of conducting oversight over the issues that Americans actually care about. And with that,
Hold on. I want you to see how Marjorie just spun around, okay? Because look at Marjorie here. Yeah, this is Marjorie right here in the corner. That has to be her. And then as soon as Jasmine
and the members of this subcommittee engaged in insider trading and market manipulation. Maybe it's a coincidence that the chairwoman brought hundreds of thousands of dollars worth of stock the day before
that
Trump
got her
announced
attention.
a 90-day pause on tariffs.
That definitely
But
got
I
her
guess we'll
attention.
never know. So finally,
you can investigate and figure that out. The problem with that one is it wasn't so much insider trading because he went out there and then announced it. Wait, so hold on. What does that actually say? Capitol Hill or Wall Street? Marjorie Taylor Greene bought stock in Palantir on April, I think that says 6th or 8th. On April 12th, a $30 million deal between Palantir and ICE was announced. Greene sits on the House Committee on Homeland Security, and the stock has now risen 42 or 48% in the 3 weeks since her purchase.
Damn!
Nothing to see here, though. If you guys enjoyed this video, don't forget to drop a like. Whatever your thoughts are, leave them in the comment section, and I will see you again on the next one. Be easy, y'all.